We are in a period of rapid timeline collapse and rapid timeline materialization as the elemental contracts on the earth, specifically the elements of air and water, come back into source code, as well as the timeline technologies that work through these elements on the earth too. My name is Solarah. How are you doing? We are about an hour and some change, an hour, I think, and 17 minutes since we officially have gone through this eclipse. It is 2:31 where I am at the time of recording. The moon became new in Aquarius where I am at 1 o'clock on the button, and then the eclipse followed 13 minutes later. So it occurred where I am in the world at 13:13 this afternoon, which I know everyone is not experiencing it within that time zone, but how interesting I found that that would be the time in which it was happening for me, okay? And even if, you're not, the 1313 isn't you, it's still, that 13 number is still prevalent because when the moon went new, the eclipse occurred 13 minutes exactly later. So 13, we have it echoing again. For those of you who've been traveling with me through these readings, in the most recent full moons, you'll know that we have had 4 full moons at that 13-degree point. I think we've had about 5, this might be the number 6 new moon at the 28th degree. So bear with me now while I break this down for you, because I went into it a little bit a few days ago. So the new moon in Virgo that occurred, the second new moon in Virgo that occurred, let me remind you that last year in the eclipse season, we had 2 new moons in Virgo. So we had the new moon in Virgo at 0 degrees, and then we entered into the eclipse corridor with the full moon in Pisces. And then we had a second new moon in Virgo that was an actual eclipse at the 29-degree mark. Now, after that new moon in Virgo at 29 degrees, all of the new moons since then, beginning with the new moon in Libra, have been at the 28-degree mark. Now, why is that important? Why is it significant? Because 28 degrees is a degree of Cancer. It is, and Cancerian energy, it connects us to the foundations of the earth. It connects us to the grids and the overlay systems of the earth, and how everything that our earth and its energetic circuitry is built upon. It begins with Cancer. And in the same way, it's the same way with our energy systems. Our energy circuitry is built upon a foundation that connects us to Cancer. It's to do also with our nervous systems, is very connected to the Cancerian energy, and how we are able to hold who we are and build and create timelines based upon the capacity of our nervous systems. Okay, so you could say, excuse me, you could even say that once the new moon began their, their monthly journey through this 28-degree mark, beginning with the new moon in Libra, you could say that we were undergoing a nervous system recalibration on all levels, including the Earth's nervous system, the foundations that support her capacity to hold certain realities and timelines and to hold certain frequencies. Now, please understand and overstand that the frequency of the Earth is built upon the collective emotional resonance that forms frequency. Okay, so think about it this way. We each have an emotional resonance that we, more or less is our homeostasis. Now, that the collective average of each individual's emotional resonance is what makes up the collective frequency. So this is why in the false matrix, they did everything they could to keep us in trauma loops and under control through fear-based initiatives. Because if they could keep us in a lower frequency, if they could keep us creating from fear, then the timelines and the experiences of the earth would become fear-based, and we would therefore be more easy to control, and also it's easier to energy harvest beings who are living in fear, because when you're living in fear, you're living apart from love, you're living apart from truth, you're living apart from your own soul, and you're therefore living apart from source. And when you're living apart from source and your truth, you become open to coercion, you become open to influence, you become open to interference and invasion. So in the false matrix, it was a very calculated move and decision to make sure that the frequency of the earth stayed at a very low frequency but high density, right? By binding us very specifically into fear, guilt, and shame-based realities and timelines and expressions of who we were. We were expressing ourselves predominantly through fear, guilt, and shame. Okay, even those things that in the false matrix we apparently did that were good things, the root of the energy that drove us most of the time was not love, because the truth of what love is has not actually been able to dwell in fullness on the planet since pre-Atlantean timelines. So once upon a time, we keep on hearing about this golden age, right? The age of Aquarius, they're the golden age timelines. The earth is returning to her golden age. What the fuck does that actually even mean, right? So the golden age, people think is some kind of like paradise on the earth. And comparatively speaking, I would say yes, it definitely has you know, some themes and feelings that we would equate with paradise, but really what it has to do with is it has to do, excuse me, with the frequency of the earth returning to love as a baseline. The frequency of the earth has been shame, fear, and guilt as a baseline. And I don't have my little trusty vibrational scale chart that I used to whip out because I'm traveling. But if you look for a vibrational scale on the internet, if you DuckDuckGo it, you'll see that the vibrational scale, when you begin to enter the frequency of love, it's just at the top, I believe, of the heart chakra, where you begin to come into the higher heart, right? Those colors, the green and the blue. And so once upon a time, that was the baseline for the timelines and the experiences that were dominating expression of energy on the earth. And that's because we were in alignment with the truth of who we are as love-based beings. Okay? So there's a lot going on through this eclipse corridor and through this new moon in Aquarius and the preceding new moons that have been occurring since the last eclipse that occurred in Virgo season, where, like I said, the new moons began to shift into this 28-degree repetitive expression every lunation, beginning with the new moon in Libra. All of the new moons have been at this 28-degree mark, which is a degree of Cancer. So this is talking about, like I said, a recalibration of the nervous system of the earth to begin to hold her true timelines and timeline technologies where love is the baseline, as well as a recalibration of our own nervous systems to begin to hold our true timelines and experiences on the earth in alignment with who we are in source code. Today's new moon in Aquarius is the final new moon in this new moon sequence that has been occurring at this degree. Okay, I think so. Let me just double check that. No, I'm sorry. We have one more. We have one more. And then when the moon moves into Pisces, I should know this because I was just talking about this last week. I'm glad I double checked it because I was like, that doesn't sound right. When we move into Pisces, so every new moon, let's get this right. Every new moon that has occurred since Virgo season last year, which is the halfway mark on the zodiac wheel, until the end of the zodiac wheel or the end of the zodiac year, has been at 28 degrees. So we will kick off the final new moon of the zodiac year. The new moon in Pisces will also be at 28 degrees. And then when we begin the new zodiac year, the new moon in Aries will then begin at 27 degrees. So then we will move out of the Cancerian degree of 28 into the Gemini degree of 27. Okay. Um, I'm not going to say too much about that. I've already talked a little bit about it in another video on my Solarah Speaks channel, because this Aries energy has been very strong and dominant, especially now that this is the first moon we've had where both Saturn and Neptune are in Aries at the 0 degree mark. So this is a big and very powerful Aries portal energy that we've been moving into and now moving through. Okay, so let's get into this today. My name is Solarah. I don't think I introduced myself. My name is Solarah. I am here to give you your Tarot Astrology Ascension report for this new moon in Aquarius, solar annular eclipse energy that we are going through today. I am not a traditional astrologer. If you are a stickler for regular astrological speak, astrological terms, astrological dogma, you know, I probably am not the one for you. It's all good and well. There's so many beings out there right now doing astrology in that format. You are at no loss for that kind of information. But if you are hoping to find it here, I am not the one. Okay, so to explain to you how I break down this energy, I use a system of my own creation that I call tarot astrology. Tarot astrology is not my term, but I do call it tarot astrology. I think other people do tarot astrology in different ways, but the way I do it, it's my own system. So I will be looking at the chart. I have both charts open in front of me, both the new moon chart and the eclipse chart, which, you know, the eclipse occurred 13 minutes after. So there's not too much of a change. Mostly the minutes of the moon, the Mercury minute shifted, and maybe Venus. And I think that's pretty much it. It might actually just be the sun, moon, and Mercury. I'm sorry, the moon and Mercury, whose minutes shifted through the eclipse, 13-minute window. Okay, so I will be looking at those charts, and I use that as a baseline for what the energies are presenting. So I do dive into the astrology, but I utilize tarot, numerology, and channeling of the planets also to bring forth the information about what is occurring on the planet at this time through this glimpse of the skies. Okay, so I do this also for people. I do a tarot astrology full rebirth soul mapping session where I do this with your personal chart. And the way that tarot astrology works is that even if somebody comes to me, if they were to come to me and they were born at the same time and the same date in the same place and they pretty much have the same exact fucking chart, the way, because I channel information, it's not going to be the same. So that's my method. Alrighty, we're going to get into it. So the new moon in Aquarius is bringing forth back onto the earth certain elemental contracts that have not been here in proper source code alignment since the previous golden age timelines. So dating back to the Atlantean and pre-Atlantean timelines on the earth. Okay, so very specifically, the elemental contracts that seem to be going through an upgrade and a reactivation through this eclipse window are how we operate here on the planet through the elements of air and water. Okay, now this is, you know, this might sound familiar to you if you are aware of Aquarius as a sign and how it also operates. So Aquarius is an air sign. It is the final air sign on the zodiac wheel. It's fixed air. But it is also known as being the water bearer, right? And the glyph for Aquarius is it's two waves, right? And then if you look into a lot of the symbology of Aquarius, you will often see a woman, well, sometimes you see a man in the more patriarchal, the more patriarchal, hijacked depictions of Aquarian energy. It's shifted to a man. But traditionally, you would see a woman with a big water vase pouring out water, right? And oftentimes you'll see her pouring out water that seems to somehow connect with the constellations, right? So in the, speaking of constellations, in the tarot, the card that connects us to Aquarius, the main card of Aquarius, is the star. And in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, Rider-Waite-Coleman-Smith, is that how it goes? Tarot deck, you will also see a woman with 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on the earth, pouring out water also. So I'm saying this because although Aquarius is technically an air sign, it is also known as being the water bearer, even though it's an air sign, right? So if you know anything, I'll take you back to like your middle school, high school science. If you remember anything about, the elements, you'll know that water exists in all things, including in the air. So water is the conduit through which you are able to travel through all states and realities, right? So it is present in all. If you look at the 4 main elements, and we're not even going to consider ether right now, but we'll look at just the 4 main elements of fire, air, water, and earth. Water is present in all 4. The further down you move, because the way it moves in order, it's fire, then air, then water, then earth. The more the water condenses and becomes more dense and therefore more, I want to say like more widely distributed by the time you get to water itself, and then you get it into the earth, right? So the process of water moving from fire to earth is a process of condensation, condensing of energy, constricting of energy. Okay, so why is this important? Because the way that things come into existence, it's through the waters. And when you're dealing very specifically with air and water elementally, you are connecting to the mental and the emotional planes within our own systems and on the earth also. So the mental planes are where our thoughts reside, our beliefs, the programming around what we've been told we should think, how we should think, that all exists within the mental planes collectively. And then it also exists within our mental bodies, how we individually connect with our own minds and how we use our minds in how we exist, how we live, how we create, how we think, right? And then within our emotional bodies are kind of like the experiences that are a reflection of our own thought processes, as well as other things, right? So all things are birthed through your emotions. And when you are, becoming more of a conscious creator and you're using your mind and your emotions to bring forth your realities, you are moving through your emotional body when you are meditating, using your imagination, dreaming. All these things are connected directly to your moving through the waters, channeling and pulling in information. Even when you go down and you remember certain things, you're actually hooking into another timeline through your remembrance. You're channeling back into a timeline of remembrance, whether that timeline is from this incarnation where you have conscious awareness, or whether you're tapping into it from previous incarnations and it's coming into conscious awareness through that journey. Because all of that information, all of the information and the coding of your remembrance of former timelines, it lives in your waters, and it's coded in your waters through the air also. So I'm saying this because, like I said, the elemental contracts of air and water are shifting on the earth through this new moon in Aquarius. And so how that has a huge effect on us personally, interpersonally, and in the collective experience is that it is shifting the way that timelines and experiences on the earth will be able to come through based upon a new frequential baseline. Okay, so you cannot create and sustain timelines within a frequency that is not the dominating frequency. So, for example, if you are very, very traumatized And your nervous system is therefore compromised and fragmented, because remember, this is all about also the training of the nervous system. Then you can connect with timelines where the baseline for the timeline would be love or joy. You can connect with it in your mind. You can even connect with it in your heart. So you can desire to have timelines of, wealth overflow and real, truly aligned love and joy in how you live, etc. You can connect with the theory and even the feeling and the thought of those timelines, and you might even be able to bring them through. But you won't be able to sustain them if your nervous system is still rooted in the baseline frequency of fear or shame, because you're still living in the remnants of trauma. So this is why throughout this ascension, we've been healing ourselves. And this is also why this is a big year, 2026, where the main focus right now is actually recalibrating our nervous systems back into the state where we are once again able to hold the truth of our power and our resonance. And we are able to not only create our true and organic timelines, but we are able to sustain and maintain them, because we have been able to raise our baseline frequency from where it was originally based upon the trauma looping experiences we were going through in the false matrix. And we are able to recover the truth of our true baseline frequency, which if you are a love-based being, your baseline frequency was always supposed to be love and above. Through the false matrix, you were programmed into what I call the trauma trifecta frequencies: guilt, shame, and fear. Okay? So if the baseline frequencies on the earth are no longer the trauma trifecta, it's no longer on the earth, fear, guilt, and shame, and the frequency of the earth herself is raising back up, and her nervous system is healing and calibrating enough that the baseline frequency of the earth is now love, then what begins to occur is that love-based beings are able to rise back into their truth, and the experiences, expressions, timelines that are the dominating realities on the earth become love-based again. I hope you're still with me, because I know this is this is complex information, especially when we've been programmed and trained to believe that the way things work on the earth are in complete antithesis to what it is I'm explaining. So, like I said, the elements of air and water, there are new contracts, or I should say, some of the original golden age air and water contracts are returning onto the earth. And I just did a video about this on my other channel, Solarah Speaks. I aired it a few hours ago, where I was connecting with a download where I was seeing that a lot of the original women very specifically, womb holders, whose wombs are connected to the water vaults on the earth that allows source code to be pulled in through the waters. A lot of them are coming online, especially through this new moon in Aquarius corridor, and also through this elemental agreement shift, very specifically through the waters. Okay, so this is why and how the timeline technologies on the earth, the original timeline technologies on the earth, are also coming back into play. In the false matrix, they had this thing where they would they kept a lot of this information, or the information they had access to, because understand and overstand, they never had access to the full shebang. Okay, they never did. They had access to a lot, but they never had access to the fullness of the truth, because the fullness of the truth is something that resides within the beings who are the source code carriers. It's not information that can just be willy-nilly transferred, but they had the basis of a lot of this stuff. And this is why they created these pyramid structures within on the earth, where there were a few beings that were very rich in controlling the resources at the top of the pyramid, and then everybody else was at the bottom being deprived of their source encoded birthrights, while these beings were sucking it all up. And for the most part, those beings at the top of the false matrix pyramid structures are actually not they're trespassers on the earth. They're not love-based beings, so they therefore don't have the energetic capacity to be here when the earth is in source code, which is exactly why they set up their secret societies, etc., and their networks in order to continually harvest us, so that they could remain here and they could remain in charge, so that source coded beings would not come back into activation. Because once source encoded beings come back into activation, it's a wrap for those beings that are not supposed to be here, who have been only able to be here due to the energy harvesting templates of the false matrix, the contracts, and then also all of the fuckery and the rituals they were doing through their so-called elite operations, those ones at the top of the pyramid. This indeed is also why you're seeing, and you're going to continue to see it, more exposure at what has been going on behind the scenes with these so-called beings who've been at the top of the pyramid. They're very depraved beings because, again, they're not love-based beings, right? So they don't have the soul collateral to be here, because they have not been able yet to evolve into a place where their baseline is love. And so they do a lot of fucked up shit, and then have to cover it up and hide and yada, 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 to pretend to be something they're not, so that they can continue to control the masses, because the masses believe them to be trustworthy or leaders or whatever position they've put themselves in over the collective picture. So a lot of those beings are going to be, continue to be exposed. They're going to continue to fall off the top of the pyramid, because the earth no longer supports their lie. The earth no longer supports the frequency of the timelines and experiences and expressions that allowed for their lies to perpetuate and to remain hidden and presented as the truth. Okay? The grids themselves, and I've been talking ever since I began my channel, Solarah Speaks, 3 years ago, I've been talking about this, how the grids of the earth, as they've shifted, cannot support certain realities on the earth anymore. So through every shift, the grids are shifting, and they no longer can contain the literal experiences and timelines that once upon a time on the earth were considered to be the norm. Okay, so we're dealing with the 5th new moon at this Cancerian degree. When you're dealing with the number 5, you are dealing with the changes that come as something is being materialized. So something is already, let's put it this way. We had the new moon in Capricorn, was the last new moon we've had, the first new moon of 2026. The new moon in Capricorn at 28 degrees. That was the 4th new moon in this sequence at 28 degrees. When you get to the number 4, the number 4 is the number of the foundation having been set. Okay, so it's a number of establishment. When you get to 5, it's more like the tweaking and the shifting of what now needs to leave in order for that 4 now to become not only established, but rooted and the new status quo. So what's happening numerologically through this being the 5th new moon at the 28 degree mark at this Cancerian degree is that a lot of what once upon a time ensured a foundation that has been pushed to the side since the new moon in Capricorn those things that supported the previous foundation are leaving very quickly. And so earlier on today, this morning, I went to take a walk near the sea where I am. And, you know, the weather's been interesting here recently. I woke up in the middle of the night, like 4 something in the morning. I woke up to a huge storm, right? The thunder and the lightning literally woke me up. And then a few minutes later, we lost electricity for a little while. And then a little while after that, the electricity came back on, and then I could hear the rooster crowing. It wasn't dawn. We were about 2 hours out from dawn. But the rooster, I could hear the local rooster crowing. And I want to say that that rooster has been crowing at really weird times since the beginning of this year. And what that begins to show you in and of itself, roosters are very, very connected to timeline shifts. That's why a lot of the time they will crow as the sun rises. Their literal energy bodies are connected with the solar shifts that connect the earth to time and timeline shifts. And this rooster has been like crowing at the craziest times recently. And I just keep on, like keeping a mental note or even sometimes a record of what is happening, because when it crows at different times for different reasons. But you can bet that a lot of the time it's because there's a shift somewhere in the solar energies that have to do with our experience of time on the earth. Okay, so there was that storm, and it's been very muggy and overcast for the past couple of days, right? So when I went out today and I went to the sea, I was hoping to maybe even just go in and ground in the sea a little bit, just my feet, because it's pretty cold. But I couldn't even do that because the sea right now today is in this process of like spitting things out. She's been going through this a lot in the past couple of weeks. It picked up a lot with the full moon in Leo. And now I see her again doing the same thing today. I was out like maybe an hour before the moon became new. And so literally, it's like she's kicking up all of the things that have been in her literal seabed. It's like being pushed into the shore. The things that shouldn't be in her body are being pushed out of her right now. And in that process, I'm just honoring the deliverance of what shouldn't be in her. So a lot of what's coming out also is like people's shit that they've been putting in the sea. Like there's a lot of plastic bottles that are literally, she's pushing it out of her. She's like, fuck this isn't my reality. And she's like pushing all of that crap that other beings have tried to crowd into her water. She's pushing it out. So, but what she's actually also doing is she is spitting out the remnants and the residue of the false matrix timelines that she's been forced to hold and she's been forced to birth from that were never her own. She's not here for us to dump our rubbish into. She's not a trash receptacle, right? She's the living body of water that connects to source. She's a womb that sustains us and brings forth our wealth, our resources, our timelines, our laws. They travel through her waters. And she's been being hijacked through all of these false timelines and then the crappy behaviors of humans who have no value for themselves, let alone the earth that fucking sustains them. And she's spitting that shit out. These aren't her timelines to hold. These aren't her timelines to birth. This isn't her rubbish to process or to hold on to. And that's what is happening for many of us now too, as love-based beings. We are literally, our nervous systems are recalibrating by us spitting out all of the scripts that kept us fragmented, all of the timelines and the scripts that other beings have had to put upon us because they didn't want to face themselves. All of the traumas we've had to endure because other people don't want to fucking face themselves on a soul level. We've been forced to create and to birth timelines and realities on this earth that are so contrary to the truth of who we are. It's not only fucked up our nervous systems, it made us sick. No more of that. No more. There is like a huge fucking purging of all of the bodies that are source coded, that are here to birth timelines that are love based, and have been forced to continually birth timelines that are fear based, that go against their true design and therefore stalls and hurts them. This is what we're going through right now. It's intense. It's intense because of what it is that is being accomplished. Okay, let's move through the chart because I've talked a lot already. Okay, so when the moon entered her newness today, we were at the 28-degree mark of Aquarius. And not only the 28-degree mark, but they were both at 49 minutes. So again, that 4 and that 9, two things. The 4 is speaking about a foundation, but the 9 is also speaking about an ending. So there's a foundation that's being set, and because of that foundation, there are rapid endings, rapid things closing out. Remember, I opened the video, I said there's a lot of timelines leaving very rapidly, as there's like new timelines materializing very rapidly too. So there's a new foundation through which the new timelines are materializing now. And in them coming forth rapidly, it's pushing and spitting out those old timelines, the remnants and the residues that the new foundation no longer supports. It's even coming through in the numbers. Now, 4 plus 9, when you add that up, what do you get? Sesame Street moment, 13. You get 30. So here we have it again. We have the new moon occurring, and then the eclipse, the solar annular eclipse, which is what we call the ring of fire eclipse, because it's where the moon kind of goes right in front of the center of the sun, obscures the central part of the sun, and all you can see in the sky, through, like, if you have that view of the eclipse, is what appears to be a ring of fire. So for me, the way I read annular eclipses, it's oftentimes when the moon enters the center of the sun is consuming something. What is it consuming? It's consuming a lot of the false matrix shadow templates that existed through the moon that allowed for these timeline technologies to exist. Remember, the moon is over the waters on the earth. She was hijacked to create false timelines and to fuck with our emotional bodies and the emotional planes. So as the moon enters the center of the sun is literally consuming a lot of those contracts, the residues, the things that have been left behind, because the moon has been going through a huge fucking purging process ever since her false matrix contracts expired around Aquarius season, the full moon in Aquarius, 2022. It was that whole like full moon in Capricorn, full moon in Aquarius window of time where the contracts, the way that the moon had been contracted to the false matrix, it came into expiration. And when that occurred, what the moon had been holding and hiding for those contracts to exist, it became declassified information. So therefore, it became something that began to pour into the collective consciousness, the collective stream of consciousness. And this is exactly when we began to be able to connect with the truth of what's been happening through the moon and through these societies on the earth. This is exactly when people started to wake up to the energy harvesting tactics, the destiny swapping, all of the fuck shit they've been doing to keep us out of awareness and out of alignment, and to keep certain beings that they initiated through their little elite circles in positions to harvest us. The moon was no longer holding that as a secret. So she's been going through this process right alongside us of exposure, of clearance, of purging, of reset. And through this solar annular eclipse happening in Aquarius today, her contracts, the elemental contracts of air and water that once supported a lot of the false matrix shenanigans that the moon was binded into, those contracts themselves no longer exist elementally. They're done for. They're done for. Okay? And the whole, not only, you know, this has to do with a whole grid restructuring, because like I said, this is the 5th new moon presenting at the 28-degree mark, which is Cancerian, and it has to do with the grids, the clearing of the grids, the rebuilding of the grids. Now, another number, so because we've got 13. 13, of course, also is the number of divine feminine creation code, divine mother creational code. Okay, so a lot of the ways that the Divine Mother speaks through her womb, speaks through what is able to be created and voided on the earth, it comes through the number 13, which is why they made it such a taboo number. They put fear around it so you wouldn't return back to your power, so the earth wouldn't return back to her power, to the truth of the code in the number 13. And not for nothing, we just had Friday the 13th a few days ago, 4 days ago. And we're going to have another one in March, because whenever you have every year, because February has 28 days, except for leap years, March will always copy the exact day structure that February had. So therefore, February the 13th fell on a Friday. March the 13th will also fall on a Friday. So we have 2 Friday the 13th back to back, but that's not it. We have another one this year. We have 3 Friday the 13th. The third one is occurring, I believe, in November. Right? So Friday the 13th is a day of divine mother, divine feminine power, because it's where her Venusian energies, how she brings things forth onto the earth from the womb, align with that magical number. Right? So we have the 1313, and if you remember, you'll know that all of the full moons, since I think around the full moon in Taurus, have been occurring at the number 13, and we just had the final one at, let me just double check. Yeah, we just had the final 13-degree full moon, was a full moon in Leo 2 weeks ago. And we've had four full moons at that 13-degree mark. So it's showing you something about the number 13 is being established. Through that number 4, there's something being established on the earth again. Okay, so we have the full moon in Leo, the full moon in Cancer, the full moon in Gemini, and the full moon in Taurus. We're all at the 13-degree mark. So the full moon in Virgo in 2 weeks' time will be at 12 degrees. Then it begins to shift. Okay. Furthermore, we've got a lot of 10 energy coming through today. And 2026 is a number 10 year. It is the 17th of February. 17 plus 2 breaks down to the number 19. 1 plus 9 is 10. It's a 10-10 gateway day. The sun and the moon are at 28 degrees both. That's a 10-10 in the number 10 year. And not for nothing, I haven't even brought this up yet. It's the Chinese New Year. It's the year of the fire horse. We are officially now in the year of the fire horse, which is also partly the energy that is bringing forth the rapid movement that makes the materialization of these timelines, it pushes them into quick momentum too. But let's talk about this 10-10. 10-10 day, 10-10 sun and moon, number 10 year. What is that telling us? What does the 10 tell us? 10, 1, 0, 0, 1. This is creational code, binary code. This is when something begins to become form and substance from the womb, from the void. 1, 0, something coming forth, right? Let's break this down in the cards. So the sun in Aquarius at 28 degrees, that's the sun card. That's the star. The star speaks of things coming into rightful alignment, not only on the earth, but as it connects to the cosmos. Aquarius is a sign that is a connector. It connects the lights. Aquarius's sister sign is Leo. It's the sun. The sun is a star, right? Aquarius is where all the stars begin to connect, which is why a lot of the time you see like this constellation motif when it comes to Aquarian energy and the water bearer pouring it out. You'll often see her doing it in the skies, you know, or even in the tarot, the star card. There's a connection to the stars, to the constellations, because Aquarius is where we begin to connect with the all. This is why even on the earth, the way that is expressed is through the internet. The World Wide Web begins to connect us all through the air, through the water, through technology. I also spoke about this on my channel, Solarah Speaks, about how this new moon in Aquarius is actually updating the Earth's agreements with the internet and the World Wide Web. Yes, everything is going to have to come under the jurisdiction of the new earth laws that are coming forth on the earth, including the internet. They know this. They've always known this. This is why you're already seeing certain shifts. And you will continue to see them, and they might happen quite rapidly. Because the internet is what connects us all through time and space right now on the earth, until we remember how to do that without hardware and without external networking, because we can do everything that we do on the internet with our minds. The internet is there, even AI is there as a bridge to remind us of what it is we can do. It's not here to master us, we're here to master it as we remember how we do those things for ourselves and how it's just replicating us, because it was created from us and through us and by us. So it has our code, it has the remembrance of how we actually work. It exists within those technologies because it is us, right? I was sharing on my channel, Solarah Speaks, I think about a week ago when I did this, did one of the readings that was coming through, that even the World Wide Web, www dot, you know, on the internet, your addresses are www dot. W is a 23rd letter in the alphabet. 23 is a degree of Aquarius. It's an Aquarian number. Now you have three W's, www dot. You think that was a mistake? These people aren't stupid, right? 23 plus 23 is 46, plus 23 is 69. 3 times 23, 3 W's is 69. 69 is Cancer. It's the dragon, it's the grids. The internet has always been connected to the grid systems of the earth. And the reason this was coming through is because, just like I said yesterday, I was doing a reading about the true womb holders of the earth that are connected to the water vaults that bring forth the source encoded waters back on the earth. What was coming through about a week ago was how those beings whose voices are literally broadcast nodes for source code are coming back online too. Your voice connects you to air, the womb connects to water, the elemental contracts are shifting on the earth, and indeed the internet contracts and how the internet can even begin to work on the earth is changing too through this new moon in Aquarius. They must come up to par with the new air and water elemental contracts on the earth too, if they want to continue to move forward into the new earth. And many of them at some point will not be. They will not be. Alrighty, the 28-degree mark of Aquarius is the 7 of Swords in the Minor Arcana. So you've got the Sun, the Star, and the 7 of Swords, and then you've also got the Fool to a lesser extent. The Fool is also a card of Aquarius. It's mainly actually the card of Uranus, right? And Uranus is one of Aquarius's co-rulers, Uranus and Saturn. The card of Saturn is the world, right? And then you've got with the moon, you've got the star again, the Fool to a lesser extent. You could even throw in the world there for the Saturn influence. And then again, the 28-degree mark, you've got the Seven of Swords. So the Seven of Swords, let's talk about that a little bit, because the Seven of Swords, it has a bit of a reputation, right? Because a lot of the time we read that card in its, in its more nefarious connotation, right? I'm trying not to say the word negative, because negative is actually not what we've thought it is either. Negative actually has to do with feminine energy. Did you know that? A negative ion is feminine energy, right? A positive ion is masculine energy. When you want to create an antioxidant effect, you need more negative ions a lot of the time. You need more feminine energy. So that word negative, it actually isn't bad. It's speaking of polarity, and it's speaking about the feminine polarity, which again is another way they mind fucked us in the false matrix through their word fuckery and through the way they were getting us to cast spells with the definitions of words. But that's a whole other rabbit hole, right? So, yes. The Seven of Swords, in its more nefarious connotation, it speaks about somebody trying to use information that they have, a lot of the time information that they've taken from you or because of you or in spite of you, because they have the Five of Swords and they're leaving behind the Two. So the Five of Swords energy is trying to usurp someone in their power, a lot of the time through deceptive tactics such as gaslighting. So the Seven of Swords speaks of somebody trying to get the better of you using intel that is yours against you and leaving you blindsided. Two of Swords. That's one definition. The Seven of Swords, when you're utilizing it in its proper effect for the purpose of harmonizing, is when you are being very shrewd and strategic in how you are trying to move through something that is designed to deceive you. Okay? So think about how that resonates with what is going on right now. That's what a lot of us are doing, right? We've been duped time and time again, and we are literally learning how to strategize and to move through the remnant of the false matrix and take back what is ours that has been taken from us time and time again through being blindsided. Now, another interesting thing about this is that because you're dealing with 10 energy, 10 is the end of something. It's the end that comes with the simultaneous beginning, the overlap of the two. So that's what you're dealing with the the Seven of Swords. You're dealing with in many ways, the end of the being duped, and you're dealing with the introduction of the strategies that must return so you no longer are put in that position of being duped with your own information and code. Yes? So there's an enlightenment process that's occurring, an illumination through the sun. And there's even a kicking up of a lot of the shadow energies. And it's not even a kicking up for it to be seen at this point. A lot of it's already been seen. It's the kicking up of the shadow energies that are here to dissolve as the moon goes into that central part of the sun through the eclipse. Alrighty, moving swiftly along because we're already almost an hour in. We got Mercury. We've already got a lot of traction with moving forward into Pisces, because for a while we had the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Pluto all in Aquarius. And now we have the sun, the moon, Mars, and Pluto, and we've got Mercury and Venus now making their way through Pisces. Yes, and we have the sun getting ready to move into Pisces, I think on the 19th. Be moving in. Wait, let me think about that. No, sorry, the sun will be moving into Pisces tomorrow, late tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world, right? So GMT time, it will be moving in the nighttime, okay, into Pisces. The sun will be moving into Pisces, astrologically speaking, not astronomically, not in terms of the true sky, but astrologically. Okay. But we already have Mercury and Venus. We also have a lot of things shifting in terms of the retrograde, the retrogradity. I think that's the word. So right now we have Jupiter in Cancer, the only planet in retrograde, right? Because Saturn came out of retrograde recently. You know, Uranus came out of retrograde about 2 weeks ago. So now we have only Jupiter, and Jupiter is going to be retrograding until March the 10th, stations to go direct, and then March the 11th, it goes direct, I believe. And then a few days later, I think on the 20th of March, Mercury stations to go direct. So I think we have about like 10 days of no retrograde energy, planetarily speaking. And then around March 20th, around the time of, am I doing this right? I pulled up the retrograde. Let me just double check and make sure I'm saying this correctly. Yeah, March 11th it comes out, Jupiter. My apologies. I got that mixed up. Forget what I said about Mercury. Mercury is actually going retrograde next week. I got it mixed up the other way around. So I'm going to explain what I mean when I say I got it mixed up the other way around. So Mercury is going retrograde on the 26th of February. I apologize. And it will be retrograding with Jupiter. Then Mercury will station to go direct on the 20th and will be going direct on the 21st, right? So Mercury will be stationing to go direct right before the sun enters into Aries. And then when the sun enters into Aries is when there will be no more planets retrograding. Up until I think May. We have 47 days of retrograde-free planetary activity from March the 21st to May the 6th. Okay? I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry for screwing up before, but I hope I brought you back up to par. So yes, we have a lot of things shifting in terms of, let me just charge my computer, in terms of the retrograde activity on the planet shifting now too. It's going to let me charge. There we go. So, alrighty. And a lot of that is occurring through the Pisces season and the shift into the new astrological year, which is when the sun enters into Aries. And we have the March equinox, spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, autumn equinox in the southern. Alrighty. Okay, so let's get into Mercury in Pisces at 16 degrees and what this is meaning also. So Mercury is a planet that allows for us to connect with all of the information that exists infinitely on the mental planes. So it's through Mercury that we are able to expand our minds and connect with new thoughts or old thoughts we've been locked out of because we've compressed our minds and what it is that we're willing to entertain. But Mercury is our like bust out of a mental jail kind of planet. It will take us where our minds need to go to recover the information to bring us back to code. Okay? Now, with Mercury moving through Pisces, it's interesting because, like I said, Aquarius is the sign of the zodiac that begins to connect us with the all, and Pisces is where we are in the midst of the all, and we must learn to stand on our own based upon knowing who we are, even though we are now fully a part of all things, right? Consciously. Now, Pisces, because it's a water sign, it's the element of water. It also is very much connected to the emotional body. And for Pisces, it's very specifically connected to how the emotional body moves through the dream and the astral space, right? So how it moves through the more infinite aspects of water that aren't in our bodies or on the earth. It's how we move past the earth through the waters into other planes and realms and dimensions of existence. Is through Pisces. Right? So Mercury, because it's very much to do with air, and then Pisces, because it's to do with water, here we have it again. We have these elemental agreements shifting, and we have the infinite quality of the mercurial energy and how it moves through air, connecting with the water sign that is the bridge between us and the infinite nature of water on the cosmos. And we have it occurring at 16 degrees. And what is 16 as a degree? Well, first, it's another Cancerian degree. 16 is a degree of Cancer. We've got all of the degrees of Cancer in the chart. We've got the 28 degrees occurring with the sun and the moon in Aquarius. We've got the 16 degree mark at Mercury in Pisces at 16 degrees. But we've also got Pluto in Aquarius at 4 degrees. 4 is the first degree of Cancer. So 4, 16, and 28 are the degrees of Cancer. So we've got all of the degrees of Cancer in all of the decans. The first decan would be 4, second decan would be 16, third decan would be 28. So we've got that Cancerian energy which connects us. What does it connect us to? The grids, the nervous system of the earth, your nervous system, the foundations that allow us to hold the truth of who we are, our expressions and timelines. That's Cancer energy. Cancer also connects us to the dragons. The dragons, which are very connected again to the elemental contracts of the earth, all of the elements, not just water and air. All of the elements, the dragons connect us to. But the dragons very specifically through Cancer are speaking about the dragon lines of the earth, the ley lines of the earth. Okay, now 16 also in terms of tarot, it is the Tower card. It's a fucking Tower card. The Tower card is sudden destruction, absolutely. It's destruction that seems sudden. It's not really sudden in the background. It's something that has built and built and built and built and built over time to a point of saturation. But the Tower is also sudden illumination. Sudden illumination. What is suddenly just being destroyed and suddenly being illuminated to be brought to the light? Well, what is being destroyed is a lot of the blocks that have occurred in the air and the water, in the airs and the waters, to keep us in finite conditions on the earth where we were not able to connect and expand beyond the false truth that we were programmed into believing through the element of air and water, through the mental and the emotional planes. We were programmed into a finite existence. We were programmed into thinking and feeling things that, are real, but it's a very small part of our true expression. And we've been cordoned off from being able to connect with the fullness of the mental planes, the fullness of the emotional planes, and how they expand beyond just the earth and plug us into the cosmos and all the information we're able to connect to and stream in from outside of the earth through our own minds and hearts and blueprints and desires. Hold on a second. Let me grab a tissue. Yes? So, Mercury in Pisces at 16 degrees is busting us, like busting the boundaries again that have been designed through the false matrix, her contracts, her grid systems, her control of our nervous systems and the nervous system of the earth. The Mercury in Pisces is busting open those pathways so that we can reconnect to the infinite wisdom of air and water as we were always supposed to move through it in accordance with our source code. Okay? The 16-degree mark of Pisces is the 9 of Cups. The 9 of Cups is what comes before the 9 of Pentacles. You cannot have the 9 of Pentacles without the 9 of Cups. Water is a wealth marker. It is how timelines become and are birthed. It is how wealth flows. It is how wealth is birthed. So the 9 of Cups shows us that before wealth becomes material, it exists in the waters and must be pulled through properly. How is it pulled through? Through the Nine of Cups. You want to get to the Nine of Pentacles, you got to go through the Nine of Cups. You want to have real wealth on the earth, you must plug into the joy code that is literally law on earth. Your joy, if you are supposed to be here, your joy code is part of the earth's law structure that exists in the water, exist in the waters when the waters are up to source code. And it exists in your waters because your ability to connect with your joy has to do with how you move through the waters internally, your emotions, right? So this is also speaking about reconnecting to your joy as law, the joy that is literally coded into your energy signature, the joy that is a part of how you're able to prosper on the earth, that is a part of your contract with the Divine Mother. This is what Mercury is reminding you of. Okay? Venus in Pisces also at 8 degrees. So Venus is also helping us to remember what it is, how it is that we are true to ourselves, to our souls in the midst of the collective energy, but also how we are true to our joy and what it is that we must walk away from in order to come into the fullness of remembrance and truth, of materializing our timelines of joy, but also, like I said, your joy as law. Venus is a planet that actually has to do with law also. We don't talk about that enough, but Venus, because it's connected to Libra, and that has to do with justice and harmonics and how polarity is supposed to be properly balanced to bring forth wholeness and truth. And the way that occurs in each person is going to be different in accordance with their individual energy signature and their purpose and their expression. The way that they harmonize certain polarities is going to be different to create wholeness within their own reality. It's going to look different. That's why we can't follow someone else's blueprint. We can't follow a collective path like they wanted to do to us in the Atlantean timelines, because to do so takes us out of wholeness. So Venus is helping us to remember what it is that we need on an individual level to be whole, so that our timelines are true to our joy and therefore true to our source code and our purpose. Venus is the Empress. It's the material birthing aspect of the feminine energy, of the Divine Mother. Coded to joy, coded to beauty, coded to how we create through that, which is why it connects us to the arts. So Venus in Pisces, this is the Empress, the High Priestess. So the invisible nature of the feminine creational energy, the High Priestess. I neglected to give you these cards with Mercury, the Piscean cards. Mercury, by the way, is the magician. I told you the 16 degrees of Pisces with Mercury was the 9 of Cups, but I neglected to do the others. So back to Venus and Pisces. Venus is the Empress, Pisces is the High Priestess, and to a lesser extent, the Hanged One, because that's a card of Neptune. It's a card where we begin to recognize that all of this is a dream. Also, where we begin to recognize we've been living in an inversion, where if you really want to see the truth of what's been going on, you've got to turn everything upside down. That's the truth, right? So the 8 degrees of Pisces is the 8 of Cups. 8 degrees is a degree of Scorpio, another water sign, sign of alchemy, transformation, death, rebirth, phoenix codes, coming back to life, resurrection through Scorpio. And it's all through the waters, all through the emotional body, all through the remembrance of who you are, all through the remembrance of your timelines, all through reconnecting with your emotional flow, Scorpio. 8 is also connected to the Leo card of strength, which speaks about pushing through, pushing past to come into liberation, come into the Hermit. You've got to push through the strength card, right? The Hermit is a card of liberation, self-liberation, standing on your own, being true to your soul, discovering who you are, choosing to do what you have to do that, by leaving everything and anything that you have to leave behind to remember who you are. That's the hermit. You have to get to it through the strength. You got to push through the ego barriers, the fears, the intimidation factors, the not knowing how to follow your heart, only knowing how to connect to the programs of the mind that the false matrix uses to bar you out of your heart. That's the strength card. You got to overcome that to come into some semblance of beginning your journey to liberation. And you're dealing with the Eight of Cups. That's the walking away from what it is that you've known, even though it might feel comfortable, because you know it's not enough. You know that you deserve more. You know that you are more. You know that you are supposed to hold more. So Venus is helping many of you, many of us right now, to walk away from that we've settled for we've settled for it because we believed ourselves to be less than who we actually are. And as we come into the remembrance of who we are, as we reconnect with these elemental contracts that allow for us to move more freely through the air and through the water, to remember who we are on a fucking cosmic level, the whole game changes. The whole game changes when you've been programmed in the false matrix to fucking believe you're a pauper when you're a prince, right? What you have access to when you think you're a pauper versus when you know you're a prince, it changes, does it not? Doesn't how wealth flow begin to shift when the true paupers, the true paupers of the false matrix who've been pretending to be princes get reassigned, and the ones who they have denigrated and programmed so they could pretend to be something they were not, wake the fuck up and recognize that they are the fucking royalty on this planet. Does that not shift? Does that not turn everything upside down? Does that not invert the program? Methinks so. Venus does too. Mars in Aquarius at 19 degrees. 19, not for nothing, because we talked about the 17 and the 2 of the day. 17th of February to February, second month of the year. 17, not for nothing, it is a number of Aquarius again, because it connects us to the number 17 card in the tarot, which is the star. And then, as if that's not enough, don't you just love how everything is coded? Every fucking thing is coded. You just have to learn how to read the fucking code. 17 is a degree of Leo. Okay, so 17 is a number that connects you to Leo and Aquarius, sister signs, both golden age energies. The last golden age was the age of Leo. We fell from grace through the age of Leo. So of course, the way to get back to the golden age would be through its sister energy, because the Aquarius also holds access to the gates of Leo and vice versa. So this is no small energy we're going through, and it's so much bigger than just because it's an eclipse. Everything is showing you how things are lining up rapidly in very strange ways right now. The new moon in Aquarius and a solar annular eclipse, the numerology of the degrees, the numerology of the day, the Chinese New Year, the year of the fire horse. It's all coming together very quickly. Okay? Alrighty. Mars in Aquarius at 19 degrees. I was saying all of that because 19, when you 17 plus 2, 17th of February breaks down to 19 also. That's why we have a 10 through the day and the month, and a 10 through the year, 10-10 energy. So we have another degree that is breaking down to 10, because we have the sun and the moon at 28 degrees, 10-10. We have Mars in Aquarius at 19 degrees, 10. Again, in Aquarius, that 10 energy in the Aquarian expression. 19 is a degree of Libra. Okay? But it connects us again to Leo, connects us to the sun. 19, or the sun card, is where you begin to come back up to scratch with your solar code. Your solar code is how your source code is expressed and registered through you on the earth. Okay, so that's when you come back into alignment with your source code. It begins to express itself on the earth through solar code, your solar codedness, how your solar codes connect to everything on the planet. The sun, we live in a solar system. So it's not just solar codes per se, but it expresses itself through your solar codedness. So what is Mars saying to us? Because Mars is in Aquarius at 19 degrees, Leo and Libra energy, right? So Mars is the tower. Aquarius, again, is the star, the fool, and the world to a lesser extent. The 19-degree mark of Aquarius is the Six of Swords. Yeah? And like I said before, 19 is a degree of Libra with tarot connections to Leo, the Sun card. So we're talking about something balancing out, something coming into proper solar code alignment and being pushed to do so. We have Mars. So this is like being pushed to do so. We're being pushed into Aquarian alignment. Being pushed into Aquarian alignment. Being driven out of those places and those things where we're not. And very specifically where our minds are not in alignment, because the Six of Swords comes after the Five of Swords. And the Five of Swords is that like place where beings try to fuck with your mind and get you to think things about yourself and adhere to things about yourself that aren't true so they can have false power over you. The Six of Swords is how the fuck you get away from those beings, those institutions, those systems, those false scripts, false contracts. Mars is like the getaway ship. The getaway ship into Aquarian timelines. The getaway ship into like justice, balance, harmoniousness within first. That internal harmony you must first access to open the door into your solar code that puts you back into alignment frequentially with your divine contracts on earth, your Aquarian golden age timelines, the timelines that connect you with the Edenic grids that are rising back onto the earth now too. Because not for nothing, when you're dealing with the Six of Swords, that connects you to the Lover's card, and that has to do with your divine contracts and your Edenic codes coming back into you and into your timelines on the earth. And everyone's Edenic codes are coded in accordance with their own joy as law, with what it is that brings you joy, that you're here to bring more of and to birth from. That is what connects you to your Edenic code. So everyone's ability to be connected to their Edenic codes and the Edenic grids on the earth, it comes through their own personal portal of joy that is coded within their own souls to help them create harmoniously and beautifully on the earth, to raise the vibration of the planet and to keep love as a baseline. Okay, I'm getting tired now. Are you getting tired of me talking? I talk a lot, but I'm excited about this. Okay, let's just talk a little bit about Saturn and Neptune at this 0-degree mark of Aries, as you know, we begin the year of the fire horse with the Chinese zodiac influence of the year. So Aries is the crowning of who you are. It's your I am truth. Aries is how you begin to not only come into remembrance of your source code, of your truth. Aries is how you begin to create the container to hold the fullness of that truth. So Aries, again, is very connected to the nervous system. It's how you begin to train your mind in order to connect with where your nervous system needs to be to hold your truth. And when I say your truth, I'm also talking about your divine blueprint. I'm going to go back to the same analogy I was using a few minutes ago, where I said, if you have been living as believing you're a pauper on this earth when really you're a prince, the nervous system calibration you've had to support the pauper timelines is not going to be the same as a nervous system that evolves for you to hold your timelines as a prince. So Aries is here to help you remember, wait a minute, I'm fucking royalty in my reality. You know, this is who I actually am. And that's what begins to shift your ability to relax into the truth of who you are, to recalibrate your nervous system, to hold your true wealth, health, vitality, peace, joy-based, love-based timelines, as opposed to the fear-based survivor timelines where you were under someone else's control and never knowing whether you were coming or going, etc., etc. It's a completely different container responsible for that life versus the life that you are now here to walk into in accordance with your source code as you upgrade yourself. Yes? So Saturn and Neptune, both at the 0 degree point of Aries, this is a fucking portal back into reclaiming your I am truth, reclaiming your mind, reclaiming the container that supports your power, your divine signature, your true divine blueprint, your true energy signature, the truth of the timelines that are supposed to flow and be birthed through you, the truth of your expression and how it's supposed to flow on earth. Aries is giving you an opportunity to come through a portal and completely like rebuild yourself. This is like a what are they called? Like those you know, those videos where people completely like change their image. I forget. But that's kind of what this 0 degree Aries energy with Saturn and Neptune is about. And not for nothing, but it's very interesting that these are the two planets that are together at the 0 degree mark, right? Because people often think Saturn and Neptune, they're so far apart, but they're not. They might do very different things, but everything is interconnected. They work together in different ways. That Saturn in Aries at 0 degrees is literally reprogramming the timelines of the earth, reprogramming the limitations that we've been boxed into through time that has created a false time-space continuum whereby we are only able to create limited experiences that we just continue to loop through. That was the Saturnian fuckery they binded us to. They used the Saturn's ability to sculpt and to mold and to separate and to bind off time to get us stuck in it. But Saturn entering into Aries, first and foremost, that's a whole new fucking entry into the zodiac wheel. This is a whole new revolution. Saturn is entering, Neptune is entering into a whole new revolution, right? So there's a complete rewiring of time and how it supports us and how time actually has always existed to serve us, not to trap and bind us. And that remembrance is going to come through on the earth a lot more as we remember and we start to format the way that we move, we live, we think, and we have our being through how we remember to utilize time to serve us instead of being servants, being trapped, being imprisoned by the false time structures that we were boxed into through the false matrix and the many false scripts that promoted those designs. Understand and overstand also a lot of your fear-based realities, your fear-based foundations that programmed your nervous system into fight or flight and out of internal stability that allows you to connect with your source code. A lot of that was enacted through binding you and boxing you into believing certain things about time and putting you out of alignment with your true clocks, your true rhythms, the way that time is here to serve you on an individual level. We're not all here to be tuned into some fucking fake collective clock that takes us out of alignment with our source code. Time is supposed to be experienced subjectively in accordance with your contract, in accordance with your purpose, in accordance with your gifts, in accordance with what you're here to do, in accordance with what your soul is here to learn. So everyone's clocks are supposed to be different. Even your fucking biological clocks, they're not supposed to be the same. That's how we were programmed out of our power. That's how our DNA was turned off, and we only use like 3 to 7% of it. It was through the time fuckery. Saturn entering Aries, 0 degrees, is a portal out for those who are ready to move past. Now, Neptune is interesting because Neptune is a planet. If Mercury is a planet that connects you with the infinite information that you're able to stream through your mental body, it can expand your mind. Neptune is a planet that expands your heart. It's how you are able to move into the full expansiveness of your infinite emotional potential. And this is where imagination flourishes, because your imagination is only ever limited. It's only ever limited, yes, by your mind, but it's so much deeper. It's by your desire. It's by your source encoded desire. This is why children are so wonderful with their imaginations, because children don't have a problem with following their hearts and their pleasure and their desires. They also haven't been coded into false matrix pleasure and desire. They haven't been coded in that way yet. So they're able to connect with the vaster experience of their own hearts and emotions that Neptune is a planet that helps to open us up to also. Neptune is also the planet that helps us to reconnect with the fullness of the waters in all planes, dimensions, realities. The cosmic waters can flow back into our reality through Neptune. So what's this telling you? 0 degree mark of Aries. It's a new revolution for Neptune, right? It's like I said before, the element of water, the contracts on the earth have shifted. Where you couldn't access a lot before through the waters because of the ways that they had dammed you out, Neptune entering into Aries is shifting all of that, and it's shifting it quickly. And it's shifting it also in accordance with your ability to remember who you are and to format your nervous system to hold the fullness of your truth. Yes? Oh, I think I'm going to end there. It's been a long one. It's been a pleasure going through these energies with you. I hope that you are activated as fuck. I hope that this reading, this report has helped you to remember and will continue to help you to remember who you are on your own individual journey. You are a being who is coded very uniquely. There's nobody that can do what it is that you've come here to do. Nobody is coded in exactly the same way as you are. I hope that your time with me has helped you to connect with some of those aspects and the remembrance of that. Okay. For those of you who would like to work with me, I will put all the information in the pinned comment section below. I have very limited spaces left for those of you who would like to do a one-to-one full rebirth tarot astrology soul mapping session with me. I know that's a mouthful, right? That's pretty much where we do what I just did here, but we do it with every single well, not every single placement. We do it with your sun, your moon, your inner, your outer planets, your nodes, and your ascendant. Okay, so we go through 12 placements through the astrology, the tarot, the channeling, the numerology, and this is what connects me to your soul map, what it is you're here to do, what it is you've overcome to be here, not only in this incarnation, but in others too. So that's the tarot astrology soul mapping full rebirth experience with me. I have a few more spaces left because as of April, I will be discontinuing this service for the time being. I don't know if I'm going to bring it back at a later date. As of now, I don't think so. It's a very, very intense service that in all honesty, for me to continue, I would have to up the price so much because it requires a lot of my energy, and it also requires a time for replenishment after. And yeah, so the only way for me to bring it back would be for me to raise the price exponentially. So that might be something I consider. That might be something that, you know, I don't know. But for now, as of April, I will not be offering it anymore. Okay, so if you're interested, I have some spaces from, I think, mid-March. So I have a few more, like not that many. I don't have the number in front of me, maybe 2 or 3 spots left. So if you would like to do that and you're serious about it, please don't reach out to me if you're not serious. Please don't reach out to me and schedule and then like ghost. If you do that to me, you will never book with me again. I don't have the time to be, you know, talking to people, organizing things, taking time out of my schedule for people to just never even get back to me and say, I changed my mind or whatever. That's just like, it's rude. And it's completely disrespectful of not only my time, but of who I am. And I won't tolerate it anymore. So please only contact me about this service if you're serious and you know you want to book with me. Okay, because like I said, there's only about 2 or 3 spots left as it is. And the way you can do that is to email me directly, solarahspeaks@proton.me. This is a service that you book with me directly because I'm not taking everybody on. So again, if you're interested in booking, you email me, solarahspeaks@proton.me. All of my other services you can access for the most part through my Ko-Fi. If you want to book a soul recovery service with me, you can book that directly through Ko-Fi. You want access to my decrees, you can buy those directly through Ko-Fi. If you want to have a bespoke decree written for you, you can order that through Ko-Fi. And if you choose the option where you are meeting with me for half an hour to talk it through before I write, you can also make that booking directly through Ko-Fi. What else? I can't think of anything else right now. I'll think about it as soon as I press, as soon as I stop the video, but I think that's it. I think that's it. Yes. I wish you a beautiful new moon in Aquarius, eclipse time. I will likely see you again in 2 weeks for the full moon in Virgo. And until then, I wish you the best. If you want to catch up with me before then, you can do through my channel, Solarah Speaks. And stay tuned because like I said to you before, my writing will be having a new home. I am writing sporadically on the community boards right now with energy updates, but I will have a more stable way of publishing and for you to connect with me very soon. So stay tuned. All of that information will come through the videos here and will also come through the community board. But until I see you again, I wish you well.